So at this point, I will be looking at governance of outsourcing. Now, outsourcing itself, it's a practice, but the governance of it is what we'll be looking at today. And considering a framework, not just thinking, not just doing what we think, but doing what is globally acceptable. Um, and I also want to say, or let me also mention, that it's very important for us to know that I like to always stress when it comes to frameworks, what the standard requires might not be practically, totally, or holistically applicable in your organization due to a lot of factors, maybe financial limitations or the size of the organization. But the framework is just a guideline. You can have human beings at different stages, but everyone should have a skeleton. So that's what we are talking about. Everyone should have a skeleton, but human beings are of different sizes. So we're going to look at the skeletal disposition of how outsourcing should be framed in our various institutions, organizations. At the end of this session, participants, we'll be looking at establishing governance structures, communication and decision-making process, performance monitoring, and reporting. We'll be looking at risk management and in outsourcing governance. Okay, we'll be looking at continuous improvements and adaptability. Continuous improvements and adaptability. Okay, and then at the end of the session, we'll have a good knowledge of how to establish governance structure in terms of we'll understand how to build effective communication and then communication channels between the organization and the service provider. Most times, we do not, or moving forward becomes hard because we don't understand ourselves, hence communication. Having insights to perform monitoring and reporting, understanding, identifying risk in outsourcing relationship, and developing mitigation strategies. You have good understanding of that, and then you have a good knowledge of implementing continuous improvement processes in outsourcing governance. Now, according to ISO 37500, outsourcing can simply be said to be the procurement of a service or a product from an external source. And that's why I have to ask, most of the time, as a consultant and a trainer, I do a lot of training, and most especially when it comes to business analysis projects, you will discover that people come with what they think what you are saying is. And that's why there's always that gap in most projects where they will now like, we thought this is what it meant, but this is totally different. And that's why I had to set the ball rolling, and I got fantastic ideas from you guys, and that was great. But most times we need to understand that what you might be doing might not be the best approach to what should be done. And that's why we have three approaches in this learning exercise today. First, you have to learn, you will unlearn, and you will relearn. Everything I'm going to say today is not new to every one of us, some of us, in fact, but you're going to learn some stuff, you're going to unlearn some stuff, and you're going to relearn some things. So now let's merge it up together. Outsourcing is the procurement of a service or product from an external source. You get, a service, a product from an external source. And it can involve transferring specific business functions or processes to a third-party provider. So it's all about, or it could be all about, come and help us do this. This area, we can outsource different areas in the organization, from IT, from recruitment, trainings, some areas of our financial services, maybe tax management and the likes. You can outsource because probably some kind of expertise is needed, and because of the size of the organization, because of the focus, you might not be able to stretch your people beyond their limits to actually provide extensively that particular service. So outsourcing could be a way out for your organization. Now, outsourcing and contract management. In the course of developing my slide, I had to come and address this. There's a lot of misconception about what outsourcing really is and what contract management could mean. And so let's look at it this way. Outsourcing explains the practice of delegating. So I'm actually giving you a part. I'm not giving you the authority. You get it? I'm still in charge, but you are doing this for me. So delegation is very important in outsourcing as a term to understand. It doesn't mean the person take charge. I mean, you lose control. No, the person is just doing something for you. And so let's understand that. Okay, so the practice of delegating specific business functions or services to an external party or third party provider rather than handling them in-house instead of us doing it within, in our company or within our system or within our business unit, we outsource it. Now, example involves hiring an IT company to manage your IT's organizational infrastructure. It's you might not be able to have that kind of high IT infrastructure that could cater for your need at that moment. Then we have contract management, which is the process. Now, outsourcing is a practice, contract management is a process of creating, negotiating, monitoring, and ensuring compliance with contracts between two or more parties to meet agreed upon objectives. Now, there are some elements of contract management in outsourcing, but outsourcing goes beyond contract management. Okay, so example could be managing a supplier agreement for office supplies. So just supply these items for our need, our use. But I think outsourcing will go deeper into services, providing certain service. Why for contract management could actually be more of supplies in some aspects, and that's is very thin for us to understand. But let's understand that one goes beyond the other. But as we all go into outsourcing, so you could ask yourself, is my organization actually just doing contracting, or we are really practicing outsourcing? At the end of this session, you will be able to have a better understanding of the position of your institution. Now, ISO 37500 framework, ISO 37500 comprehensive framework. Let's look at it together. It entails the following, which could also mean the outsourcing life cycle model. When you say life cycle, it means it starts from somewhere and it ends at a point. So the starting point is what we call outsourcing strategy analysis. Outsourcing strategy analysis, which has to do with the purpose of this phase in outsourcing is to initiate and evaluate outsourcing opportunities. You initiate and evaluate. What does evaluation mean? Let's look at it. Do we actually need this service? Do we need this much? To what extent do we need it? How often do we need it? When do we need it? Is it cost effective? Is it what we need now? That's the point. You outsource. You do what we call outsourcing strategy analysis, defining the outsourcing strategy and identifying potential outsourcing opportunities. That's majorly done it's client-based. That is, your company does that. You want to do that yourself. You want to look at where we are, where we ought to be, or where we intend to be, and stuffs like that. The nature of this space is predominantly client-based, and the next one will be initiation and selection. Initiation and selection. The purpose of this space is to specify the requirements for proposed services to outsource, to select adequate providers, selecting suitable outsourcing providers, and establishing the terms of agreement. This is usually done by the senior management. So you should understand this process. Okay, you should understand this process. And most time we do not have, most of the do not have a department that manages this. You might just be a unit in a department that is just handling this, maybe one person. Sometimes, depending on the size of organization, outsourcing could be better looked into, to have more efficiency and to align with this framework requirements. Now, if risks are acceptable, agreement should be signed at this point, and then moving to the next phase, all decision documents are, submitted to the outsourcing um, governance processes for approval by senior management. Now, the third phase is the stage, transition stage. So you see that first you define the strategy, identify potential opportunity, then you now select suitable outsourcing service providers, and then establishing the terms of agreement. Then you transition into the relevant, transferring the relevant resources, knowledge, and responsibility to the outsourcing provider. Now, the purpose of this phase is to enable the provider to establish delivery capacities in their environment. They are, at this stage, the transition may include transfer of staff, assets, and related change management procedures. Change management procedures. Now, I want to say something on change management. Most of us expect that because we are moving to a better system, a different service provider, people must comply. People should comply, but your change management strategies will determine to what extent the compliance will be favorable. And this is one of the areas most people get it wrong. Remember that the old practice could be some people's milking cows. So you have to know how you can move smoothly, and how you can transition, you manage your transition management, and your change management, as it were. So you have to be very careful, and you have to be intentional. You have to communicate properly and in the right at the right time to the right people, so that you don't lose some of your stakeholders along the line. So let's go on. We'll get to get a lot of that in the course of the session. Now, the next phase is deliver value. Now, these four phases is the basic life cycle model for ISO 37500. So you have to understand these four phases. And the next phase is deliver value. This is the fourth phase. The purpose of this phase is to ensure that both client and the provider realize and sustain the value of outsourcing arrangement according to the defined business case and ambitions. Now, most times we do not get value for what we proposed. You agree with me? Maybe at some point there's a change, there's an adjustment, the service provider is not meeting up as expected, and then it's costing the company a lot, but because we have signed a contract, and that's what outsourcing and lifecycle management helps you to guide against, so that you are not losing out. You cannot be paying for something and you are suffering over that particular thing. So this is very, very important. you know uh and most times because we feel our hands are tied, the things we are supposed to do so that you don't find yourself in this kind of situation are the things we are looking at this point. Okay, and that's why it's important for you to do your due diligence in your second stage, which is initiation and selection. You have to do your due diligence. There should be no bias. There should be no sentiment. Things should be done appropriately. Okay. So the next phase. So in the deliver value stage, when an agreement is made for a longer period, alignment of ambitions and interests within the outsourcing governance will trigger changes to be made in deliver value. Okay, so this phase ends with preparation of the contract evaluation, which will be used in governance to assess the results. So we want to see this phase, the process are identified as complementary processes to complement what we actually set as our goals, to be sure that these things will deliver the values we are expecting and there are no deviations. Okay, so this is very important. If you get it wrong at this point, I think every other thing is just a jamboree. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. And then the governance establishing a governance structure to oversee the whole outsourcing arrangement, and which is at the center of it, and then managing risk. A lot of risk are associated with outsourcing. A lot of risk, and that's why your risk management department should be, I mean, within the committee of governance in risk and in outsourcing, so to speak. Now, definition of importance of outsourcing, definition of importance of governance in outsourcing. If you are with me and you are hearing me loud and clear, say hi, hi, hi. I just want to hear hi. Someone.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Hi,
Hi.
hi, hi. That sounds interesting. Hi. Okay, so if you can hear me, can you just tell me just 2 out of 4 of the 4 basic outsourcing life cycle? First person, I'll clap for you. Second person, I'll hug you. Third person, I will say hi. Okay, who can tell me two of the expected stages in the life cycle of outsourcing? If you are not writing, you missed my slide. If you want me to go back, you say please. Okay, yes. You can unmute, please. 2 of the outsourcing life cycle stages. Yes, anyone?
Hi.
Yes, thank you, Mobolale. I can hear you.
Initiation and selection stage.
Excellent, excellent. Yes.
Then outsourcing strategy analysis.
Great, great. You're just the best. You're just the best. I clap for you. Any other person you want to tell me 2 other ones?
Yes, sir, I can.
Samuel, you're welcome. Yes.
Okay, the next stage is deliver value and governance.
Great, great. Samuel Upong, you're great. Thank you so much. That means I'm not wasting my time. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So outsourcing governance refers to the structure. Now, I want to create a complication here. What is structure? Anybody, you can unmute and tell me what is structure. What do you think is structure? Maybe I'm going to affect your ideology today. What is structure? Yes, you never can tell. Somebody knows it better than I. So I want to hear. What is structure? Anyone?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, to me, structure means a set system or precedent of carrying out a task.
Good. The first word is what?
A set system.
Set system.
Or precedent for carrying out a particular.
In an organization, where is structure mostly affected in a system? What frustrates structure?
For me, I think structure is more like a framework that one should use to acquire a certain goal. and this is being used at the operational level.
Great. At all levels, okay? Yeah. So what do you think frustrates a structure in an organization? From your experience, from what you have read, from what you know, what do you think frustrates a structure?
Sir, I think what mostly frustrates structure is lack of due compliance.
Okay, so where is lack of due compliance coming from?
Okay, let me use an instance. You mentioned reporting and
Yeah.
evaluation. So if a company or an organization has a structure that ought to be followed in probably recruiting or carrying out these outsourcing services, and then you just like you are not meant to be biased in your evaluation, and you now fail to comply with these strict principles that ought to be adhered. So I think that will frustrate the structure, because at the end of the day, you see that you are not following the guidelines already set by the company.
Excellent, Samuel. So I want to build on what Samuel said. And if you agree with me, say yes. If you stand to disagree, say I do not agree, and I will listen to you. I promise you I will listen to you. The structure of a system is determined by the mindset of the people in that system. If you agree, say yes. If you do not agree, say I do not agree. The structure of a system or of an organization is affected or determined by the mindset of the employees in that system. If you agree, say yes. If you do not agree, say no.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay, Samuel has agreed. I need 4, 5 more people to agree before I move on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shegun.
I
So
100%
down
agree
to the
with you.
tone, management, buy-in and tone from the top, basically.
Excellent. Excellent.
I
Thank you so
100%
much.
agree with you.
Oh, Stanley, thank you. Sam, thank you. Yes, any other person? I've gotten 3 people. If you agree that the mindset of the people will determine the structure of a system.
Yes, some of us already typed yes on the chat too.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes,
I
so
agree, I
yes,
agree,
you are very right.
Oh, great, 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 great. So if that is an agreement, the whole essence of outsourcing could be frustrated when the people in charge of the outsourcing structure do not really understand the requirement and the framework, let's say, requirement of outsourcing. So they could do what they are used to, they could be doing what they are used to, they could be doing what they like, they could be doing what they want rather than doing what is expected. So it's you have to invest so much in mindset development. You have to invest so much in mindset development of your employees. And I want to say that and stress that a lot. Africa suffers business collapse, knowledge and development. We would rather invest to hire. We don't further train to sustain what we have hired, except some organizations who have gotten the clue. So your business, your organization is being frustrated. Your MD is a problem to your company because he has not been investing in training and development for himself and for the system. So let's move on. I think I've achieved something. Outsourcing governance refers to structured approach. Effective outsourcing provides a roadmap for accountability, transparency, consistent performance, mitigating risk while maximizing value from outsourcing agreement. Now, setting up a governance framework. What are the things we need to do? It outlines a governance framework, outlines your policies, your processes, structures for managing the outsourcing relationship to align with organizational needs. The framework should have the following. If you want to have a governance framework, number 1, define objective and expectations. Please, I want to encourage you. Anytime you are going for a meeting in your organization, always ask, what is the essence or purpose of this meeting? We can have reasons to meet, but we might not have well-defined objectives for meeting. So I'm trying to stress the importance of this small word or phrase, as it were, and the importance of it. The bedrock is to define objectives and expectation. Let your goals be clear, and let the person that is setting the goals be clear. So establish clear objectives that our sourcing relationship must support and aligned with business goal. Now, so you are not starting something different for what the overall goal of the business is. You are only trying to see setting up an outsourcing framework that will complement the goals of your company. So you have to understand the goals of your company very well. Now, outline core principles. You should emphasize accountability, transparency, and adherence to legal and ethical standards. It's very important. It should be written boldly so that anyone who fails to comply already knows the implication of what he or she is doing. Then tailor governance levels. There must be structures. There must be the step-by-step to reporting. You have to reflect the scale of strategic importance of the outsourcing engagement. So at what level, who are the people that should oversee, at what level, who takes what responsibility, varying from the basic oversight to detailed operational controls for critical services. Now let's look at effective outsourcing governance. It says it relies on clearly defined roles and responsibilities for stakeholders, both internal and external. Now, what are the roles? Who is to handle what? For instance, on the project we handled, we discovered that for you to have effective outsourcing, in a standard organization, the legal team, the risk management team have a lot to do. You don't just think because the vendor is okay or we can move forward from here. You have to look at what are the risks. You have to do a risk analysis. You have to ensure that you look at legal implications to that that aspect of business. What are the legal red buttons that you should be conscious of? It's outsourcing agent, careful and conscious of all this, or is just doing what he thinks is right? Because when you move from various, for instance, those of us that work and that work on organizations that have international go beyond international barriers, you will understand that when you change territories, the laws differs. The laws differs. So you have to understand the importance of legal implications to any step or approach you're trying to apply, implement, or constitute towards an outsourcing governance framework. Now, okay, internal stakeholders like your senior management, procurement, and legal teams oversee vendor selection, ensure alignment with strategic objectives, manage financial reports, and facilitate risk management. Outsourcing steering committee, a cross-functional team that ensures alignment, resolves escalated issues, and oversees critical decision making. You should try and get some subject matter experts who can be engaged in some of these very strategic areas, depending on the areas you're trying to outsource. My people say that you cannot scrape the head of a man even without his consent. So you don't maybe like accounting now, you just because you are the procurement department, you just went and got a vendor, you didn't even consult them properly and consult the expert in a particular field. Is it tax management? Is it FX? You have to get, subject matter expert within your team to advise you accordingly. Their input matters, and we'll get to stakeholders management at the later part of this training. Let me move quickly now. In operational team, responsible for day-to-day oversight, monitoring of the service level agreement and liaising with service providers. They are very important as it were. Then external stakeholders, e.g. service provider, account manager, project managers, you fulfill contractual obligations, you manage service delivery and communicate performance risk issues to the clients or to the organization, against organization, as it were. Now, communication and decision-making processes. Communication and decision-making processes. Building effective communication channels. Communication is sending the right message to the right people, using the right medium at the right time to get the right feedback. So the medium you are using, is it the right medium? Are you sending the right message? Have you confirmed the message? Have you affirmed the message? Have you supported? You know, it's very important. Communication has destroyed, or poor communication has destroyed a lot of good intentions within a system. In the outsourcing governance, communication is very important. Before you make decisions, the stakeholders must be communicated to. And so there must be clear, consistent communication for successful outsourcing relationship. And the key practices in this includes formalized communication plans. You have to schedule meetings. You don't just call for meetings anyhow. There must be scheduled meetings where reports must be presented, where there must be checkpoints and enable organizations and service provider to review performance. You address issues and you align them back to their objectives. There must be defined points of contact, who to meet for what. There must be a representative who is always reachable. There must be somebody who can communicate. There must be a reporting line before something goes out within your organization, who must be communicated to before your correspondence or your delegate reaches out to the vendor for confirmation. Okay, so this is very important in outsourcing. Now, defined use of collaboration tools. Of course, technology has made a lot of things much more easier, and this is very important to leverage on. Okay, like your real-time updates, shared documents, and project tracking tools, are very important so that everyone can have access to information. But mind you, there must be a well structured IT approach if you are using some of these shared tools. So what are the limitations at what level? To what information? What are the signed agreements that if the information is going out, confidentiality should be signed on such kind of information so that you don't get messed up and they don't use it against you in the future. Okay, decision-making mechanism, effective decision-making processes ensure timely and informed responses to challenges and opportunities. The mechanism includes, now most times when there are challenges, people don't know who to meet, or meeting the wrong person who directs you to another wrong person, and then the problem continues to linger. The other person gets frustrated, and then there are gaps. So what are the escalation protocols? How are issues escalated based on their impact level? You have to understand the impact level, and that's telling you from your risk management analysis. You have to know your I flags, and then your red flags in your risk management, and then the impact level, and then your residual risk. You have to understand your risk appetite. At what level, to what point can't we take this or accept this risk, as it were? So there must be escalation protocols. You have to involve higher management only when necessary, not that you begin to involve them on cables and things that do not even need their attention. You are bringing such things to the meetings. It could be frustrating. And joint decision committees for major decisions, establish joint committees with representatives from both client and the provider. So the provider is the person that is giving you the service. The client is you that is outsourcing the service to ensure mutual input. So you don't think, because you are the one giving him the service, don't think the ball stands in your court to control at all the time. The interest of the provider also must be duly considered if you want the outsourcing relationship to be effective and mutual. Then approval hierarchies. Document the levels of decision authority. It's very important that the decision authority, decision authority decision authority um decision authority could ensure that, before some decisions are made, why do we want to make decision? For major decision, you must establish joint committee with respect representative from both client and the provider. You don't take just a decision that means suits the interest of your team or your organization, and then neglect the interest of others. Then approval hierarchies document the level of decision authority for both day-to-day and strategic issues, so that maybe at your top management, your MD can approve this, your CEO can approve, your CFO can approve the HOD can approve the manager, senior, junior, like that, so that some little issues do not need to be escalated up, so that the relationship could be cordial. Now, setting up key performance indicators, KPIs, and service level agreements, the performance monitoring through KPIs and SLAs ensure that outsourcing goals are consistently met. Key steps include defining measurable KPIs. The KPI should cover quality, timeliness, cost efficiency, and customer satisfaction, ensuring alignment with the strategic objective. What are we saying here? Your key performance indicators or indices should ensure that we are getting value for the service in terms of time, in terms of cost, and we're getting satisfaction. Even the end users, probably the customers, are getting satisfaction from whatever service that is being provided. And then there should be an alignment to the strategic objectives. It should not be independent. Okay, we are not running another organization in this governance structure. Establishing SLA, service level agreement, you should define minimum acceptable performance level, outline remedies for unmet SLAs, and set out escalation procedures for performance issues. This should be stated. Now, if you want your performance monitoring and reporting to be effective, you should establish this in within your document, your KPIs. Your SLAs rather should have escalation procedures for performance issues. Then there should be regular review metrics. There should be maybe monthly, weekly, depending on what is agreed or what depending on the service, that there should be review on both parties, from your side and the other side, and adjustments to KPIs, SLAs, reflecting business needs. Okay. Now, using reporting tools and techniques. Now we've talked about KPIs, we've talked about sourcing, governance, structure, how to escalate, when to escalate, procedures for escalation. Now, what are the reporting tools and techniques? Reports must be done not just with word of mouth. It must be reports. Effective reporting tools promotes transparency, of course, and accountability. And these tools should provide real-time performance tracking. So your digital approach tools like your dashboard and performance management software allow for continuous monitoring, so that when they are log structures where you can log in your activities so far, and it generates maybe a dashboard immediately, performance can be accurately measured without further explanation. And there should be a way of checking the true reports in line with the reality of performance and expectations are being met. Automate reporting processes. Automated systems reduces manual inputs, and then providing accurate, consistent, and updated information. And everyone can have access to it irrespective of where they are. Document performance reviews. Maintaining records of review meetings and action items, so that the last meeting we agreed at this, and then most times you can have changes within, or some adjustments within the requirements, and this must be properly captured so that at the end of the day no one is losing out. Now, what's the risk management in outsourcing governance? Risk management in outsourcing governance, like identifying and mitigating risk. Identifying and mitigating risk. The risk you have not foreseen is a risk that can attack you. So you have to be able to identify the risk and plan your mitigation strategies in the course of the outsourcing relationship. Now, outsourcing relationship inherently carries risk, including financial, reputational risk. ISO 37500 suggests proactivity in risk management approach in outsourcing. So the risk reduction and assessment, you have to map out, what we call map out potential risk, identify those risks. At the beginning of the relationship, we said your risk management department or your risk personnel should be able to identify the risk in the course of the relationship, in the outsourcing exercise, and conduct regular risk assessment as the relationship evolves. So it's not a one-off assignment, it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. Now, risk categorization. You have to categorize risk, e.g. operational risk, strategic risk, legal risk, to apply appropriate management strategies. So how do we come out of this risk if we are faced with this? It must be properly identified. If there's a way to mitigate or to avoid, depending on the risk strategy, management strategy or approach, you have to begin to plan ahead of time so that the impact will not be obvious. Now, developing mitigation plans. Establish clear plans, action plans, contingency measures, and response tools for different types of risk. Now, we are looking at to maintain compliance, the governance structure should incorporate the following. Number one, if you want to maintain compliance, to ensure that we are doing what we are supposed to do according to the set standard agreed upon, the governance structure should incorporate contractual compliance monitoring. I said earlier that this might sound robust for some of us that are just joining. It doesn't mean that, an organization that's not that big, everything, this is a whole lot of its own. You can just apply it at your own level. But what we are saying is that so that you don't lose out from outsourcing, you don't suffer a huge damage or loss or challenges because you're outsourcing. That's why you have to carry out risk assessment, and then the risk governance, the risk analysis should be done and must be done early enough so that to foresee, to identify risk that are ahead so that you don't run into trouble before you see, most times businesses, we don't pay attention to some of these things, and we only feel once we are making money. I don't want to go into that now, because I will tell you most organizations are deal centers, not organizations. And then we have business centers, not organizations. A few companies come up to the level we call an organization. And that's why it doesn't even mean you have to have all the staff to carry out proper risk governance, proper outsourcing structure. It's just that you have to be organized. The organization must understand basic principles that makes them an organization. And that's why I said earlier that the structure of an organization is actually a function of the belief system, which will bring me to tell you that the culture and the climate in the organization will do a long way to ensure an effective outsourcing governance structure. Okay, when everyone works to standards, standards cannot be compromised. When everyone do not have regards for standards, then talking about standards is a waste of time. So maintain compliance. The governance structure should incorporate contractual compliance monitoring, regulatory adherence. There are laws within the local and international or national environment. When you don't comply with these laws, it could create a collateral damage. Data security privacy also is very important. Data protection protocols must be a priority, especially when outsourcing involves customer sensitivity, data sensitivity, or information details requiring strict adherence to data compliance. So you have to be very careful who you are giving to handle what, because the risk associated with some of these things are more than the person who caused the damage. So continuous. So now we're going to talk about continuous improvement and adaptability. Implementing continuous improvement processes. Now, one of the major soft skills required in every business organization today is adaptability. Can I ask someone, what do you think, what are the benefits of adapting or adaptability? Can anyone answer, please? You can unmute your mic. What are the benefits or importance of adaptability? Yes? Anyone? Can unmute your mic, please? What are the benefits or importance of adaptability? Yes.
Hello.
Thank you.
I think adaptability helps you to stay relevant and competitive in the market.
Yes. Okay. Now, it helps you to stay relevant in the market. A very good one. Some of us might have heard of the different organizations who, as a result of low adaptable skills, are out of business. I was discussing somewhere, and I asked the organization, the people, the participants in the training, supposing your organization is scrapped off in Nigeria, where will you pick your life from? And they said, no, we are a government institution, and not far from that time, they started a lot of crisis. I'm just trying to say, you must learn adaptable skills. Things are not always straight. Life is not always a barrel of a gun, and sometimes you have pistols. Okay, so that was along the way. Let's get into it. Back to it. Implementing continuous improvement processes is key in maximizing the value of outsourcing relationship. And some of the processes involves feedback loops. Establish structured feedback mechanisms, allowing both client and provider to make incremental adjustments to improve service delivery. And we have a feedback, okay, this is not going to work this way, this will work better this way. They must be able to give a feedback. Everything must not just be rigid and unchangeable. Then, because of the volatility of business environment, we've learned that organization that is not adaptable, that does not understand the volatility of businesses today, cannot stand the test of time. Things are changing. There's a lot of uncertainty and complexity, ambiguity. Everything is changing, and it's changing fast. So we have to ensure that that we have feedbacks to help us, foresee, forecast, and plan ahead and adjust to what is obtainable and realistic in terms of our operations and the outsourcing relationship and frameworks. Now, benchmarking is also very important. Compare your provider's performance with industry standards and competitors, uh, standards in other places to ensure that we identify the areas of improvement. Where are we not getting it right? Where are we missing out? Most times, when we just outsource, we just leave the whole process to the provider to provide what we ask them to do. No governance structure. That's why we are emphasizing this. That's why this webinar is inviting you and encouraging you for more detailed 37500 sessions, which we're going to expose you to the in-depth of some of these practices that can help your company, maximize the benefit of outsourcing rather than just doing what they have been doing. Then innovation incentives. It's also important to consider contractual incentives for providers who innovate, introducing new efficiencies, technology, or solutions. Adjusting governance structures as needs evolve. Outsourcing governance should remain flexible to accommodate changes in the business environment. This may include periodic governance reviews. You schedule review of the governance structure to assess whether it still aligns with the organizational objective and outsourcing relationship. So you have to periodically, review your governance frameworks, and they're adapting service level agreements, key performance indicators to ensure that we actually are falling in line with the set goals and meeting up with new expectations. Then updating contractual terms. It doesn't mean that most times, most of the contractual terms is just copy and paste. They are not well customized to fit the specific contracts. So we have to be updating and ensure that we read through the lines so that we are not leaving any stone unturned. And at this point, I want to come to the end of this brief presentation on outsourcing governance or guidance using the ISO 37500. It's usually a whole lot of modules, but then I think we've been able to touch some basic things in the outsourcing structure. Don't forget, a whole lot depends on the size of the organization, on the financial strength and capability of the organization. It also depends on the structure of the organization. But however, the emphasis of this ISO is to ensure that we align with best practices to get the maximum value we are expected to get in the outsourcing relationship. And don't forget that there are 4 outsourcing life cycle model which at that point is client based. The nature is predominantly the function of the client, and the purpose is to initiate and evaluate outsourcing opportunities. We have the initiation and selection, which is done by senior management. The transition, which that's the transition, we may include transfer of staff, asset, and related change management procedures, and then the deliver value stage, which all are encompassed in the governance, the outsourcing governance. So with these few words of mine, I hope you've learned more about outsourcing. I hope you are convinced and not confused. Thank you very much.
Standards and best practice, your partner in professional development.